Hello, my name is Kyle Lejeski, Area Vice President with EMC, and today I want to spend some time talking about an unbelievably hot segment of the market. Depending on what analyst you read most often, it's sometimes referred to as converged or hyper-converged, engineered solutions, or integrated systems. But regardless of the definition, it's a white-hot segment of the market. And really, I think it's an answer to probably three of the most common CIO agenda items that I hear come up on any given week. The first is the need to enable the digital strategy or digital transformation. When you look at the disruptors that are coming from digital or technology-centric organizations into traditional industries, Uber into the taxi cab industry, Amazon into retail, or Nest into thermostats or industrial controls, you start to see how disruptive a digital-centric or digital strategy-enabled organization can be to traditional businesses. The challenge in this is that there usually isn't a lot of new money or new people to enable this digital transformation. So the need to reduce cost, and while reducing cost, manage risk, become kind of the second and third items there. That being said, we're really trying to figure out how we drive that cost out faster while consolidating the number of vendors I do business with and inherently shrinking my risk profile. And that's really where this notion of an engineered solution, and in VCE's world, which is the EMC's federated organization that delivers these engineered solutions, ultimately refers to it as. Now, many vendors have many definitions of their offerings in this space. Sometimes they're called reference architecture, sometimes they're called converged or hyper-converged, but really it's about the business outcomes that the underlying tenants of the architecture derive. And really I want to focus in on the 5 key tenets that enable VCE's engineered solution. The first is the fact that it is engineered. So we take best-of-breed technologies from Cisco, EMC, and VMware. We integrate them together where we look at utilization rates and performance rates and availability rates, and we really architect this thing from the ground up to be best-of-breed from an engineering standpoint. We then pull this into the factory and manufacture it as an engineered solution. So we pre-rack, pre-stack, pre-cable, pre-integrate all the underlying hardware, and we go as far as administering the underlying logical configuration as well. So how many virtual machines, in what quantities and sizes, and how it connects to the underlying storage architecture. All of this is done. This takes your folks out of the piece part business. Think of this as buying a vehicle versus putting together a kit car in your garage. We see people wanting to get out of the piece part business and ultimately refocus the time, energy, effort, and people power on some of these more transformational digital enablement strategies. The next thing we do is once it's engineered and manufactured, we actually deliver it from a management standpoint as one. You can demo our VCE Vision software to see how it is managed as a single entity. And then we support it as one. So it's a single phone call for support on all of the packaged or engineered infrastructure. So no longer are you trying to troubleshoot between server and network vendor, and storage vendor to find what the problem is. You call VCE support, and that is all handled in a turnkey fashion. 93% of the calls to VCE support are answered and serviced on that first call. Obviously, there's escalation paths to level 2 and 3 within VCE's organization, and if and where needed, level 4 into the parent company's organizations. The fifth point is really how we sustain this underlying architecture. And this is a huge value driver in that we look at ultimately downtime and outages that typically occur at the seam, where server meets network, where network meets storage, etc. We've eliminated a lot of those seams in this engineered and manufactured solution, but we've also done all the logical code management from a single matrix. And we will actually perform the code load on the entire infrastructure stack twice a year. What we start to see is huge business transformation outcomes. And IDC did a great write-up on how these 5 elements drive business transformation outcomes. The first is really from a build-it-yourself to engineered solution. We see a 96% uptick in uptime and availability. Again, pre-engineered, pre-integrated, single code load, single support, starts to make sense on how the availability significantly increases. We also see a significant time to market advantage where from purchase order to production, we can have this thing up and running in less than 45 days. When you compare that from purchase order to equipment retrieval to rack stack integration to data migration to go live, that could easily be 6, 7, 8, 9 months in a build it yourself infrastructure. So a much faster time to market, a much better experience from uptime and availability when it's up and running, and then you really start to see where this engineered solution starts to drive a people transformation. In that most customers went from a server, network, storage, and backup administrator, they're now really enabling what we call a converged architect or converged administrator, resulting in almost a 4-to-1 reduction in labor cost, ultimately taking your people out of the cabling, networking, wiring, low-value tasks and reassigning them to high-value digital transformation skill sets that are going to be required in this world of digital, big data, and new use cases for new applications. So as we take these 5 value props, we deliver them really in 3 different ways. We deliver them at the edge in an appliance, and we deliver them in the data center in a rack or a block. Ultimately, your use case will drive an appliance at the edge or a rack or a block at the core, and we can help you identify where your use cases are, but recognize that we have a full portfolio of engineered solutions that encompass these 5 core tenets for the various use cases that you may have. This ultimately nets to a business outcome. And I really categorize this as the 3 Ps. It's a product, a process, and a people advantage, which is the net result of deploying a VCE engineered solution. A couple highlights on the products, right? Obviously, a lot of the underlying components here are best in class, but we're doing some very different things with the products we're using. For example, one of these block offerings leverages an all-flash architecture. I get away from RAIDs and LUNs and underlying storage administration, and I have this limitless scale-out capability where I stack brick after brick after brick, and I pick up a linear performance compute, storage, and network curve that allows me to scale ultimately indefinitely. What this really drives customers towards is a 7-year life cycle on these solutions. So think of a traditional architecture where you're refreshing every 3 or 4 or 5 years as that increased maintenance bill comes or the system is saturated. You have to go through a data migration and a second purchase. In our flash converged architectures, we never really hit that performance limit. We lock in that maintenance rate for 7 years, and you ultimately have a guaranteed 7-year useful life of the asset, eliminating the migration and eliminating the need to rebuy that equipment in year 3 or 4 or 5, depending on your depreciation cycle. We've also integrated some best-of-class backup technologies to make data protection part of the turnkey solution. Ultimately, the products are great, but the magic is in the process and the people transformation. These 5 tenets ultimately speak to the process. This is a faster time to market, better availability when it's running, an engineered, manufactured, single support, single sustained system has transformational process elements to the business outcome. And lastly, the people. As we're trying to retool our skills from cables, networks, and low-value tasks to high-value transformational business enablement tasks, we can take a server, network, storage, and backup administrator and retool that skill set into a converged architect. We actually leverage our Cloud Acceleration Program, or CAP education program, to help enable the people transformation. So ultimately, vBlock helps you move to a best-of-breed product, a transformational process, and a people transformation, all while we're driving costs down, managing risk with fewer vendors, allowing us then to refocus our efforts on high-value digital transformation or digital strategy efforts. Appreciate your time today. I would encourage you to reach out to your EMC or VCE account executive for more information. Thanks, and make it a great day.